Joe Biden just nominated a brand new socialist gal, Amarava. I'm sure you may have heard of her. We're going to kind of do a little deep dive on her life and what she enjoys, and how her Marxist views plan to take over the banking system as we know it. It's just going to be a fun video. Real happy. So she was born in West Kazakhstan, region of the Soviet Socialist Republic in 1966. She graduated from Moscow in 1989 with her thesis titled Karl Marx Economic Analysis and the Theory of a Revolution in the Capital. She's basically just putting her cards on their table saying, I am a Marxist. I want to rule over you. And this is going to be great with me, the grand ruler of all you rubes.
The Queen Poobah,
Oh,
I believe, is the
yeah.
technical term.
She got then she came to the US in 91, got her PhD and doctorate. She's definitely a smart gal, but has a lot of screws loose. Then she wrote a paper called Marx's Economic Analysis and Theory of a Revolution in Das Kapital. But it's nowhere to be found. People have requested for such thesis, but she has declined access. I wonder why. Could she perhaps have communist or Marxist views? I don't know. Is that a stretch? With the title of the paper, now she's a Cornell law professor. Those are the teachers that I love. I'm sure that she's just blessing all of her students with just the great mind of Marx himself. So what's she doing now, Justin?
Well, I'll just simply say I think when people graduate school, there's a reason they put those square caps on people's round heads. It just kind of shows how they've distorted thoughts, but that's a different discussion. Anyways, there's 6 things that came to mind and when I look at Miss Omarova. And so, starting with number 1, she was nominated by the Biden administration to lead the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, otherwise known as the OCC. If you're not familiar with the OCC, what their job is they're kind of one of the big banking regulators in the United States. They're a department of the Treasury. And per their webpage, they have 4 main mission goals. The first one is to supervise and examine the commercial banks in the United States. Again, pretty much run of the mill, nothing out of place there. They also provide regulation and enforcement for financial institutions. And again, they've been doing this for quite some time. So nothing too out of the ordinary there. They also issue bank charters and bank licenses, as well as for their 4th mandate, they see themselves to act as an intermediary to protect both consumers and their communities. If you have a problem with your bank or financial institution, you can complain to the OCC, and the OCC may be able to help. But what's interesting about this, and this takes me back to my first point, is that Omarova has stated that she would like to consolidate primarily all banking regulation underneath the OCC, of which she has been nominated to lead. So that's the first thing. And this is where, again, you see this echo of people who seek power. Because, Josh, as you noted earlier, that in this particular situation, there's quite a lot of power already in the OCC. And someone coming in with the, shall we say, educational pedigree of Miss Omarova, and perhaps with the various proclivities that someone who maybe studied in the socialist system, won the Lenin Award, and has written multiple papers on how the Soviet style might be a blessing, that might give people pause, because basically it's, you need to give me more power. And so that just sends a shiver down my spine.
Yeah, it should be thrown off a quick red flag that she's being nominated for the OCC, and now she's saying that the OCC needs more power. And you know what? I have to be in control of this power because I'm better than you.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
just so.
yeah.
What are her plans
Oh,
for
right.
when she takes over?
Yeah. So let's go into step number 2. And so one of the things I've said in other videos is that I've maintained the fact that the Federal Reserve wants the ability to cross the chasm, just a quick and dirty way of the Federal Reserve being able to issue currency units into your account, my account, and currency units that can directly be spent in the economy. The Federal Reserve really can't do that nowadays. I think they're looking for an excuse, and they're hankering for a way to make this happen. Omarova coming in allows that to happen, or at least it opens the door to this happening. How does it do this? We go back to March of 2020, and an act that was proposed, although I don't think it's been passed yet, called the Banking for All Act. Anyways, In the Banking for All Act, there is the proposal that every citizen and every business who's a member of the commercial banking system have a pass-through account with the Federal Reserve. Just a very fancy way of saying you'll have a direct account with the Fed. The reason that's important is that if you have a direct account with the Fed, you also now have a way, or that is, the Federal Reserve has a way to deposit units of currency into that account that you can then turn around and spend in the real economy. Hence, what I call crossing the chasm. If you'll permit just a quote from this quote from the quote from the act right here. Member banks shall open and maintain pass-through digital dollar wallets for all persons, including persons eligible to receive payments from the United States pursuant to a federal law relating to the coronavirus, COVID-19, who elect to deposit funds in a pass-through, blah, blah, blah. The point is that this is opening the door to the Federal Reserve being able to issue currency units that can be spent. And in so doing, it also opens the door much wider to CBDCs. Let's not, in this video, talk about the probability of CBDCs occurring or not. I just simply will note that Ms. Omarova's policies and what she's said in the past dovetails very nicely with this.
Yeah. I'm
And
just going to kind of explain that a little bit
yeah,
further, because if you don't really have a deep understanding of how the banking system works, you could be thinking, okay, the Fed's been doing quantitative easing for the past, I don't know, decade, and that's just money printing on the next level. Why should we worry if we have an account with the Fed? The reason is because right now the Fed cannot issue dollars into the system. They need a third party. They either need
mhm,
banks or the governments to spend it. So if you have an
yeah,
account with the Fed, we all know that they can just type on their computer and print unlimited bank reserves. That's no problem. But they can't actually get it into the economy without a third party. So if we had an account with the Fed, they could put as many dollars into the system as they want. Or
they can cross the chasm.
so Justin, I think that she has some views about who
Oh,
gets money and who doesn't. Do you think
yeah.
you could tell me that?
So just a quick review. Number two is basically the crossing the chasm. And you might say, well, listen, perhaps this is a good thing. If we can do payments, it creates, of course, there's some pluses, but I would argue, a hell of a lot more minuses. The third point from all of this is she would propose in extreme circumstances, allowing the Fed to confiscate deposits from these Fed accounts to arrest inflation. That's just a basic way of saying the government will simply take your resources, the money that you've earned from your labor or the money that you've earned from your investments, because they need to achieve whatever goal they deem as important and has not yet been achieved. Like I don't know how to emphasize this enough.
It is
Here's the equivalent.
fun.
That's me. If I was the government, reaching into your account at Bank of America, Chase, or whoever you bank with, and just taking your money because whatever, right? There's too much inflation or whatnot.
Well, it would actually more so be like the police someday knocking on your door. They break in, they
Yeah.
go to your safe, they break open the safe, they take half of your money and then leave.
Asset seizure. Asset
And so
seizure.
what is money? Money is the value of your production. So you work and
Yeah.
you produce. And because of that production, you are expending energy. After you expend that energy, you are then rewarded with spendable units of currency that you can then go buy goods and services with. So
Or hold for the future where you could also then spend it. That's really, really important. It's not you can spend it now as well as you can continue to spend it into the future. Really, really key in that fight.
yes. And she's just saying, okay, I'm done with this. Instead, I'm gonna control. You get money, you don't, and I'm gonna confiscate the people I don't like.
Yeah.
For example, maybe people who have gotten a certain medicine that's big being pushed right now, or if you are a climate advocate, and if you drive a Tesla, like with my friend Justin here, or if you're driving a dirty diesel truck that's just, oh man, it's so bad for the environment. So what's next on the steps? Because
Oh, yeah, and Josh, just to add one other thing to that front, there's a lot of talk about negative interest rates. This would CBDCs and accounts of the Fed would facilitate negative interest rates. But what's more insidious than negative interest rates is the ability to target Americans who you do not think are behaving correctly. Like that's insidious.
that's going down a deep rabbit hole for a
Yeah.
completely different conspiracy.
So, anyways, in the words of, it was Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. It gets even better. So, number 4 is basically allowing the Federal Reserve of New York to short stocks and assets when the regulators believe a bubble is forming.
So they can
And,
buy
and
and sell stocks. That is great because that's what we
And
need.
short. No. What it is like they are issuing. Let's say you're a company. Or you mentioned Tesla. We'll pick on Tesla for a second. Let's say the government's pissed off at Tesla for whatever reason. They will issue fake Tesla IOU shares that will trade as regular Tesla shares and essentially dilute the price of Tesla. Like it just screws over all the other people
No,
who
they
are in
wouldn't be able to
Tesla.
issue shares. They would print money and then short the company. But either way, they're picking winners and losers. It is
Yeah.
just absolute distortion. And this is a real woman. This is a woman who just got nominated by Biden. It is unbelievable, Justin.
And this
That
is only point number 4. We're only at point number 4. We're only at point number 4. Wait till you hear number 5. We've got more in store. Anyways, what Omarova wanted to do was that she's proposing a U.S. National Investment Authority to take over, manage, and transition problem companies. And so just kind of think about that for 1 second. In other words, if a company's not doing something that the government feels that it should be doing, she thinks that there should be an investment arm to basically go in, take over, or take an equity position and interfere with management. But let's just walk through. She first made the remarks during a February social wealth seminar event hosted by the Jane Family Institute, a not-for-profit research organization, where she specifically named the coal, oil, and gas industries. Quote, a lot of small players in those industries are going to probably go bankrupt in short order. But then again, at least we want them to go bankrupt if we want to tackle climate change. So this is point blank. I mean, there's no pretense here. I mean, I just don't know what to say. I mean, like
Here, what is the problem with this? There's a direct correlation between the amount of production a society can have in GDP. So if we have production and GDP, I mean, in energy consumption rising together, if the production of energy, coal, oil, gas plummets, the production, I mean, our society would come right down with it because there's a complete direct correlation and they know this. So
energy underwrites our living standards.
the energy is the economy, and that is no simplification. There is nothing in our economy if there's not energy. And I agree, we should be taking steps to get off of these energy sources. But with the current technology that we have in the world, it is physically impossible to stop. If we do, we will go back to a prior to 1900 society, which is just absolutely terrible to live in. We won't have running water, drivable cars. We'll be back in the 1700s with our
It's
founding
serfdom.
fathers.
It's serfdom 2.0 is what it boils down
Yeah,
to. And
exactly.
like, here's the thing, right? Like, by all means, and this is what I blows my mind is that what we need to replace the existing system is with a system that's even better. Not necessarily a system that makes you feel good. Because if all you're looking for is a system that makes you feel good, you open the door for the most persuasive argument versus the most logical argument.
Yeah. And
And so, yeah,
socialism sounds great, right? Everyone's equal, we'll all get the same, everyone will be happy, we'll live in a utopian world. That's just it is not possible for that to be the case
because
because
then you wake up.
yeah,
Then you wake up. Yeah. Anyways,
some views are physically not possible to have in this world. And why does she want socialist views? Why does she want everyone to be equal? But she wants to be in control of it all. If she wanted everyone to be equal, wouldn't she be on the exact same playing field as everyone else? This is why politicians in all colors are just completely corrupt. All they
yeah.
want is power and more power. And they say they're doing it for you because they want you to be equal to everyone else, but they're just somehow not equal to you. It
I mean, it's Animal Farm is what comes to mind. All
yeah,
animals are equal, Josh. It's just that some animals are more equal than other animals. And
yeah,
that's, I think, with Amarova. What she goes on to say is that her National Investment Authority will be able to negotiate equity stakes in private enterprises. So again, that's basically just like the government doing takeovers, just flat out takeovers. And again, I just don't know what to say to this. Besides, I mean, like typically, like you do, there would be like a cute turn of phrase would be they would be trying to hide their intention, and you would go through and call them out on it. But the thing is, like they're telling you point blank, and it's like, Well,
Yeah.
damn, I'm out of a
And
job.
then and then this is like, "Oh, you conspiracy theorists." We're literally reading what her quotes, what she's saying.
Yeah,
It's
it's just I
absolutely mind-blowing, and this is people that the politicians are now actually nominating. This is who's gonna get passed, and
yeah.
and you wonder why we get where we are.
So I just I do not know what to say. And just beyond the fact, like, well, this is what you want. We're back. This would be my response to that. Is that if this is truly what you want or what we want as America, put her in and give her all the power that she wants. And hear me out, because as a country or as a society, I don't think we can bounce back before we hit bottom. So the sooner we hit bottom, the sooner we can bounce back, and hopefully we all don't die on impact. That's kind of my cynical viewpoint on all of this. But I just look around. Oh, and number six, just number six. She also wants to get rid of FDIC. So that was probably already a given if she's basically destroying the banks. But just, so it's out there, I should probably just note she wants to get rid of
Yeah,
FDIC.
and I'll read one last quote from her. So, then this is what she says. So she's getting some pushback in the media,
Mhm.
shockingly, right? And here's what she says. She said, I'm gonna have to cut this and find the exact quote. 1 second. Okay. So she's getting some pushback, and shockingly, right? It just you couldn't even imagine that a lady with this character, with these views, would get some pushback, right? Well, she says she claims her nomination, I mean, claims opposition to her nomination on sexism, racism, and describing herself as an easy target. Amarova, are you sure about that? Or is it that you want to have a Marxist takeover and control how much money each human gets, fluctuate stock prices, destroy energy, and be our world ruler? Do you think it could have anything to do with that? No, Justin, it's because she's a woman of color.
Yeah, clearly, right? Sooner or later, the racism credit card is going to be maxed out. The feminism credit card is going to be maxed out. In other words, the people that they go after and accuse of being all these isms, homophobic, Islamophobic, anti-woman, misogynistic, whatever, sooner or later, the people they accuse of this, and I'm not going to name the group that they accuse, but if you just look at the screen right now, you'll be able to figure out, who that target group is. They're just going to stop caring. In fact, some already have. And so in that particular situation, it's a very interesting thing because the guilt trip only works for so long before it just stops working altogether. But anyways, my prior point, I would say, remains fine. Let's do this. Let's go to the end of the line and just see what awaits us. I'll be fine. Josh, you'll probably be fine too. I don't know if everyone else will be.
I would not like to see what happens, but man, it seems like this is happening closer and closer every day. So, on this
Yeah.
happy, happy news, Justin,
Yeah.
thank you.
Josh, take care, man.